I never believed in those moments that change everything until I was hunched over a toilet at 3 in the morning with food poisoning, and Mara held my hair back like it was the most natural thing in the world. We'd only been roommates for 6 months. We weren't even that close, but something shifted that night, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about her since. Let me back up. I met Mara through a Craigslist ad, which I know sounds terrible, but rent in the city is insane, and I was desperate. She seemed normal enough in her photos, pretty in this effortless way that made me feel immediately self-conscious. When I showed up to see the apartment, she answered the door in paint-stained overalls, with her dark hair twisted into this messy bun, and I remember thinking she looked like someone who belonged in a coffee shop, poetry reading, all artistic and untouchable. She was nice, professional. We talked about bills and cleaning schedules and whether overnight guests were okay. I said yes to the room before I'd even finished the tour because I needed a place and because something about her made me want to stay. I told myself it was just the apartment. The light was good. The neighborhood was safe. It had nothing to do with the way she smiled when she talked about the succulent garden she was trying to grow on the fire escape. Those first few months were fine. Normal. We'd pass each other in the kitchen, making coffee, exchange pleasantries about our days, sometimes watch television together on the couch with careful space between us. She worked from home doing graphic design, and I'd hear her on calls in her room, her voice taking on this confident professional tone that was different from the softer way she spoke to me. I worked long hours at the museum, so we didn't overlap much. It was a good arrangement. Easy. Uncomplicated. Except I started noticing things. Small things. The way she'd leave post-it notes on the fridge, reminding me about leftovers she'd made that I could have. How she always bought the good coffee, the expensive kind, and never asked me to chip in even though I drank most of it. She had this habit of tucking her hair behind her ear when she was concentrating, and I found myself watching for it while pretending to read on the couch. When she laughed, really laughed, she'd cover her mouth with her hand like she was embarrassed by her own joy, and I wanted to pull that hand away and tell her she didn't need to hide. I convinced myself it was just appreciation, gratitude for a good roommate, maybe the beginning of real friendship. I'd had intense friendships with women before. I'd had a boyfriend in college, a few awkward dates since then with men who were nice enough but never quite right. I'd never seriously considered that I might be attracted to women. Or maybe I had considered it in that abstract way you consider things you're not ready to examine too closely. Late-night thoughts I'd push away. Moments with friends where I'd wondered if what I was feeling was a little too intense, a little too focused on the way their lips moved when they spoke. With Mara, I couldn't push it away. It was there every time she walked into a room, every time she said my name, every time our hands brushed, reaching for the same coffee mug. The night I got sick, I'd gone out with co-workers to this new sushi place that had gotten great reviews. Big mistake. I came home around 10 feeling queasy, tried to sleep it off, and by midnight I knew I was in trouble. By 2, I was camping out in the bathroom, absolutely miserable, trying to be quiet because I didn't want to wake Mara. I failed spectacularly. I heard her door open, heard her soft footsteps in the hallway. Then she was there in the doorway, in an oversized t-shirt and sleep shorts, her hair down and messy, her eyes full of concern. I was too sick to be embarrassed. I was too sick to tell her to go back to bed. And then I was throwing up again, and she was kneeling beside me, gathering my hair in her hands, her other palm warm and steady on my back. She didn't say anything at first, just held my hair and rubbed small circles between my shoulder blades. When I finally stopped, She handed me a glass of water that she must have grabbed from the kitchen. Her fingers brushed mine as I took it, and even in my miserable state, I felt that touch everywhere. "You should go back to bed," I managed to say. My voice was wrecked. "I'm fine." She gave me this look, gentle but firm. "I'm not leaving you like this. When's the last time you ate?" I told her about the sushi. She winced sympathetically, then disappeared and came back with crackers, ginger ale, and a damp washcloth. She pressed the cloth to my forehead, and it felt like the most tender thing anyone had ever done for me. I started crying, which I blamed on feeling sick, but I think we both knew it was more than that. She stayed with me all night. When I insisted she didn't have to sleep on the bathroom floor, she dragged in her pillow and a blanket and made herself comfortable against the wall. Every time I woke up to be sick again, she was there, pulling my hair back, offering water, telling me I was okay in this low, soothing voice that made me believe her. Around 5 in the morning, I finally felt stable enough to think about moving back to my bed. I was exhausted, wrung out, embarrassed now that the worst had passed. Mara helped me up, her arm around my waist, and I leaned into her more than I needed to. She smelled like lavender and sleep and something uniquely her, and I wanted to bury my face in her neck and stay there. She got me settled in bed, pulled the covers up, brought me more water. I caught her hand before she could leave. "Thank you," I said. "You didn't have to do all that." She sat on the edge of my bed, and in the early morning light filtering through the curtains, I could see every detail of her face, the slight shadows under her eyes, the curve of her mouth, the way she was looking at me like I was something precious. "Of course I did," she said softly. "I care about you." The way she said it, the weight in those words. I felt it in my chest, heavy and terrifying, and exactly what I'd been trying not to name for months. I couldn't look away from her. I didn't want to look away. And for just a second, I thought maybe she felt it too. This pull between us. This wanting. Then she squeezed my hand and stood up, and the moment passed. "Get some sleep," she said. "I'll check on you later." I couldn't sleep. I lay there replaying every moment of the night, every touch, every look, trying to figure out what I was feeling and what it meant and what I was supposed to do about it. I'd never wanted to kiss someone as badly as I'd wanted to kiss Mara when she was sitting on my bed. I'd never felt so completely seen and cared for. And I'd never been more terrified of my own feelings. Over the next few weeks, things shifted between us. Or maybe I just couldn't pretend anymore. We started spending more time together. She'd invite me to cook dinner with her, and we'd move around the kitchen in this easy rhythm, talking about everything and nothing. We started watching shows together deliberately, not just when we happened to both be on the couch. She'd sit closer now. Our thighs would touch. She'd lean her head on my shoulder during tense scenes, and I'd hold my breath, hyper-aware of every point of contact. I caught her looking at me sometimes with this expression I couldn't quite read. Soft. Searching. Once, I came out of my room and found her just staring at my closed door like she'd been about to knock. We stood there in the hallway, and the air felt thick with everything we weren't saying. I almost said it then. Almost asked if she felt what I was feeling. But fear grabbed my throat, and I just smiled and walked past her to the kitchen. My best friend Sarah noticed something was different. We were getting coffee, and she asked point blank if I was seeing someone. I said no. She raised an eyebrow and said, "I had that look." "What look?" I asked. "The look of someone who's falling," she said. "So, who is he?" "It's not a he," I said before I could stop myself. Then I froze, coffee cup halfway to my mouth, because I'd never said it out loud before. Sarah just smiled and said, "Okay, so who is she?" And I told her everything. About Mara, about the bathroom floor, about how I couldn't stop thinking about her and didn't know what to do. Sarah asked if Mara was queer. I said I didn't know. She'd never mentioned dating anyone in the time we'd lived together. Never brought anyone home. I'd never asked because I was afraid of the answer either way. What if she said yes, and I had to confront the possibility? What if she said no, and I had to let go of this hope I'd been nursing? "You have to tell her," Sarah said. "You're going to drive yourself crazy otherwise." She was right. I knew she was right. But every time I tried to imagine that conversation, I panicked. What if it ruined everything? What if she was uncomfortable and moved out? What if I lost her completely because I couldn't keep my feelings to myself? Then last week, everything came to a head. We were on the couch watching a movie, some romantic drama that was probably a mistake to choose. There was this scene, two women finally admitting their feelings for each other, and the kiss was tender and desperate and perfect. I felt Mara tense beside me. I couldn't look at her. I couldn't breathe. The scene ended and the movie went on, but neither of us was watching anymore. She reached for the remote and paused it. The silence was deafening. I could hear my own heartbeat. Then she said my name, so quietly I almost didn't hear it, and I finally looked at her. Her eyes were wide and vulnerable and terrified, and I saw my own fear reflected back at me. "I need to tell you something," she said. "And I'm really scared to say it because I don't want to make things weird between us. But I can't keep pretending. That night when you were sick, when I stayed with you, something changed for me. Or maybe it didn't change. Maybe I'd been feeling it for a while, and that night just made it impossible to ignore. I think about you constantly. I look forward to seeing you every day. When you're not home, the apartment feels empty. And I know we're roommates and this could complicate everything, but I have feelings for you. Real feelings. And I needed you to know." I stared at her. My heart was racing so fast I thought I might pass out. She held my gaze, waiting, and I could see how much courage it had taken for her to say that, how vulnerable she'd made herself. And I realized I had a choice. I could protect myself, pull back, pretend I didn't feel the same way. Or I could be brave. I kissed her. I didn't let myself think about it. I just leaned in and pressed my lips to hers, and it was like everything clicked into place. She made this small sound of surprise, and then she was kissing me back, her hand coming up to cut my face, and it was better than anything I'd imagined. Soft and urgent, and absolutely right. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathing hard. I rested my forehead against hers. "I feel the same way," I whispered. "I've been trying not to for months, but I feel the same way." She laughed, and it sounded like relief and joy and disbelief all mixed together. We stayed like that for a long moment, just breathing each other in, and then she kissed me again. Slower this time, deeper. Her fingers threaded through my hair, and I pulled her closer, and I felt like I was falling and flying at the same time. We talked for hours that night, about when we'd first started developing feelings, about all the moments that had meant something, about how scared we'd both been. She told me about the night on the bathroom floor, how she'd realized somewhere around 4 a.m. that she was in love with me, how she'd been trying to work up the courage to say something ever since. I told her about noticing the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, about watching that movie scene and wanting it to be us. We decided to take things slow. We're still figuring out what this means, what we are to each other. But we're doing it together. She holds my hand now when we watch television, kisses me goodbye in the morning before I leave for work, sleeps in my bed most nights, curled around me like she's afraid I'll disappear. I'm still getting used to this version of myself, the one who's in love with a woman, the one who gets to kiss Mara whenever I want. It feels new and terrifying and completely natural all at once. I think about all the time I spent trying not to feel this way, trying to convince myself it was something else, and I wish I could go back and tell myself it was okay. That love doesn't always look the way you expect it to. That sometimes the person who changes everything is the one holding your hair back on a bathroom floor at 3 in the morning. Mara's calling me from the kitchen. She's making dinner and she wants my help. I can hear the smile in her voice. In a minute, I'm going to go in there and she's going to kiss me hello and hand me a wooden spoon, and we're going to cook together like we've done 100 times before. Except now, I get to wrap my arms around her waist while she stirs. Now I get to kiss her shoulder and tell her I love her. Now I get to keep her. I never believed in those moments that change everything, but I do, now. And I'm so grateful I was brave enough to let it happen.